Since I started reading this manga, one persistent question has been bouncing around in my mind like a hyperactive chitinata. What would happen if I planted multiple cuties? Could they blossom into strong, enchanting women, allowing me to finally create my mommy harem? Akina Shoji, who worked tirelessly as a corporate slave at a soul-crushing corporation, came to despise his life. But after enduring long days of overtime, he finally saved enough money to start his own store and break free from the oppressive company that had employed him. However, in that ecstatic state of knowing he was finally going to realize his dream, he suddenly faints. In the next moment, his life turns upside down as he finds himself inexplicably summoned to a different world, surrounded by guardians and mages. With the king before him hailing him as a hero, Shoji can't help but believe it's all just a dream. But the king explains that it is not the case, and this is indeed another world. From here on, he elaborates on the basic isekai introduction, explaining how their country has been locked in a relentless battle against evil demons. Despite their valiant efforts, they have gradually been outnumbered. Thankfully, they managed to summon the hero, whom they now want to offer his strength and protect them. As always, once summoned to this world, the hero receives skills from God. To access them, one simply needs to shout "skill open," and a panel with information about oneself should appear in front of their eyes. Upon calling the skill menu, cultivation appears, an ability that causes anything the hero buries in a field to grow at an extreme speed. This leaves him utterly baffled, wondering if his brain is just messing around with him. Unfortunately, when discovering his power, everyone around believes the hero turned out to be a flop, and they're eager to kick him to the curb. Surprisingly, this king is nothing like the usual sneaky queen. But with a brain sharper than a toddler learning to walk, the king decides to use the production skills the hero possesses. Since they're running low on food, he offers Shoji a vacant house and a field on the outskirts of the royal capital, giving him the quest to use his skill in order to provide food for their country. A week has flown by since he arrived in this seemingly dreamlike world. During this time, he continuously experimented with his newfound power. Shoji was astounded when he attempted to grow vegetables using the cultivation skill and witnessed seeds sprouting in just a matter of days. Yet, the novelty of his abilities wore off rather swiftly, as there seemed to be little else of interest. However, on the 8th day, he came to the realization that this place might not be a mere dream, but could indeed be reality. And carrying a box full of freshly grown vegetables in one hand, he decided to go see the king. When Shoji presented his first harvest to King Ru, he noticed the monarch's joy at the prospect of the nation's hunger being eased. Taking advantage of the moment, he asked about his possible return home. However, the king sadly told him that once summoned, a hero could not leave. Shoji was stuck in this world forever. Furious at this news, Shoji drowned his sorrows in drink, regretting his wasted efforts. He remembered his lonely childhood, with his parents working tirelessly on their farm. Despite their initial happiness, their financial troubles grew until they fell victim to a scam, leaving them in debt. After losing both parents, Shoji left the farm behind, rejecting his agricultural heritage. Instead, he pursued a corporate career, only to be dragged into this strange world just as he achieved success. Drunk and out of options, Shoji whimsically planted a bottle of booze in the ground, believing the booze will grow like in a fairy tale, and quick after wasting all his energy falls asleep beside it. The next day, hungover and broke, he planned to gather any crops he could sell, but was amazed to find a tree full of bottles of alcohol. Remembering his drunken antics, he realized the length of his abilities, but not sure if what had grew in front of him, he tasted the liquor which found to be genuine. Taking the bottles to town, he went by a shopkeeper who, doubting his liquor, gave it a try. Surprised by the taste, the shopkeeper offers to buy them, giving Shoji 8 silver coins. During this encounter, he also found out that in this world alcohol does not grow in trees, and is actually made trough traditional medieval ways. Realizing the potential of his farming skills, Shoji chose independence over serving the monarchy, fearing a repeat of his parents' fate. After buying some more high-selling items, he went back home and started growing all kinds of things from healing potions to shields and swords. He tried to test how far this skill could go, and in order not to get chopped by anyone, he set up a huge fence around his garden. In the end, it turns out he can grow anything, even if the item does not have seeds or something that would theoretically allow it to grow. All he must do is plant it in the ground. Because of that, even coins have been planted, giving him unlimited amount of wealth. Thinking that, once the king will find about his ability, freedom would be just a dream for him, Shoji decides to use the power for his own happiness. Becoming an independent businessman was always his dream, to do whatever he wants whenever he wants. Would this skill finally allow him to do so? In order to find that out, he started by registering as a trader, bought a wagon, and stocked it with goods, hiring adventurers for protection against bandits. His team consisted of 3 adventurers: Kyle the warrior, Kava the archer, and Maine, a slender girl wielding a hefty iron rod. As they set out, Shoji asked Kyle about their history as a team. Kyle laughed, explaining that he could never permanently team up with the weapon killer, referring to Maine. Just as Kyle began to elaborate, bandits attacked. The group quickly formed a strategy, with Kava shooting from the back, Kyle fighting at the front, and Shoji hiding in the wagon. Inside, Shoji was nervous, but outside, Kava and Kyle efficiently defeated the bandits. Shoji was reassured until he saw Maine's clumsy movements. However, when a bandit underestimated her, she effortlessly sent him flying with her rod. This surprised Shoji and the bandits, who retreated quickly. Shoji praised their strength but found Maine in tears. Her weapon was broken. He was surprised that her sturdy rod could be shattered, earning her the nickname the Weapon Killer. Maine cheered up when she received a new weapon, a mithril sword, from the bandits' loot. Kyle suggested selling the expensive sword, but Maine refused, promising to keep it safe. Upon arriving in the bustling market city, Shoji is amazed by the surroundings and the multitude of people walking on the streets. Tonight, he is going to open his own store, and because of that, he encourages others to do whatever they want since he believes that inside the town should be safe. This surprises the guards, who are grateful to the employer for being so generous and treating them with respect. While the 2 guards had left, Maine decided to stay back and speak with Shoji. It turns out she was looking for extra work to generate more income. That's how she became the sales clerk and effortlessly carried all those big boxes. She seems like smoke because of her superhuman strength. Because Shoji had spoken with the merchant guild to set up his shop during the free market overnight, he missed the chance of sleeping with Maine at the inn. And now, while preparing the stuff for the big day that was to come, Maine came across a handkerchief that looked extremely beautiful and started asking questions about it, since this quality of cloth was remarkable in this world. Hearing the girl's enthusiasm, Shoji decided to give it to her, prompting the girl to show a big smile. When he's done arranging his stuff, Shoji looks at it and believes that since he got overly excited, he ended up abusing that skill and bringing way too much with him. At which point, when the girl observed, she was amazed to see how many different kinds of things he owned. The customers on the street seemed to be from the middle class, and because of that, he decides to place the groceries in the front while the expensive clothes and ornaments sit in the back. This is also another way to protect the more expensive stuff if someone were trying to steal it. Now, when he shouts out loud that his store has opened, lots of people have gathered around, but all their attention is on the cute-looking girl. When people finally started buying stuff, they considered the prices to be too low. For example, they were only paying 2 copper coins for some vegetables. Apparently, this guy had come to the market without even considering researching the prices and how things are selling in this world. He just compared the coins to the yen and the prices he had in the previous world. When trying to correct his mistake by increasing the price 4 times, he still ends up with a lower price than the market. However, when people ask about the dried meat and find out that it's only 30 copper coins, they start pushing and throwing their money, as this kind of price is nowhere to be found. As a result, he ends up selling all the vegetables and the meat. Yet this story is far from over. A group of women, all looking remarkably similar with their exaggerated personalities, came looking for this guy's meat they've heard is cheap. Unfortunately, they run out of that juicy protein source, which leads him to present the clothes instead. When they hear the price for the clothes is 3 gold coins, they all start running away, telling him to wait a second. A moment later, countless mountains of pleasures can be seen tossing around gold coins, making a sound I wish I could hear not only in my dreams. In this world where sewing technology is underdeveloped, clothes are valuable. But for Shoji, he only had to buy one of each type and then duplicate them using his cultivation skill. While women keep coming, he ends up losing track of his remaining stock, and not too long after that, he realizes they've sold out. This achievement surprises the other shop owners, as it is only morning hours, but for these well-endowed, clothing-hungry women, it's not enough, and they demand more clothes to be brought the next time. The next morning, on their journey back home, everyone praises him for his skills as a great merchant, as everything inside his cart gets sold. But as the royal capital comes into sight, a group of identical bandits jumps in front of them, demanding all the money and the girl, prompting Maine to draw her mithril sword and demonstrate her power. She dispatches them without any problems, even as more of them appear. Using her strong sword, she cuts through their weapons and takes them out like they're nothing but small fries. However, that doesn't last long until the weapon's durability reaches its end and it breaks, leaving the girl in disarray. She's managed to break another great sword, earning her the nickname Weapon Killer once again. Looking at it, the guy's opinion about the girl is quite low, suggesting that even if she were to find another weapon in the loot, she would end up breaking it as well. Upon arriving in the town, the guards express a desire to work for him again whenever necessary. As Shoji makes his way home, he thinks about Maine, whom he believes should quit being an adventurer since she breaks all the weapons she handles. But her raw power is amazing. Maybe it would be a good thing to make use of it. However, now is not the time to think about others. Shoji must take care of himself, as he does not know when the kingdom will eliminate the useless hero. Plus, if they find out about his true power, they will most probably exploit it until his last day in that place. To prevent this from happening, he must leave this kingdom as soon as possible. But before that, he must gather some information. The next day, as he was gathering information and went by the Adventurers Guild, he came across Maine, who was aggressively approached by a big-looking guy who menacingly declared that she would become a slave. Once Maine has seen Shoji, she calls for him and tells the boy that she is not able to pay her debt, and because of that, they are going to take her away. Analyzing the situation, the boy can see that Maine is strong enough, not allowing the debt collector to even flinch at her. Furthermore, Shoji questions what the repayment is, and finds out she has to pay 1 gold coin per month, of which 4 silver coins are the interest. Shoji could pay her debt, but he also knows this won't solve the problem from its root. Therefore, now, pointing towards the mithril sword the girl broke the other day, Shoji mentions he would buy it for 2 gold coins. While the girl is showing her enthusiasm since this amount of money would allow her to buy a new weapon, the debt collector seems rather displeased. If she won't be able to pay in time, she will become a slave next time. As the collector leaves the place, Shoji wonders if the girl is planning on becoming a slave, only making her feel lifeless. However, the next moment, pointing toward the cafeteria, the boy suggests they could go there and hear more about the situation the girl is in. Moments later, the little girl opened up, mentioning she actually has a skill named Superman. It is a skill that increases physical ability. Yet, she can't control it. That is why she keeps breaking her weapons before long. Even more, that does not mean she's getting tougher, meaning her defense does not improve. Furthermore, that is exactly why she is scared of using her bare hands. There are also monsters that can't be defeated with cheap weapons. She even bought good quality and durable weapons with debt. However, the debt kept on increasing while she repeatedly destroyed the weapons with her skills. As a result of that, she received the nickname of Weapon Killer. The girl even tried joining the army for money, but every time during training, she broke her weapon. And there was a lot of danger for her training partner. With that being said, she got fired because she was disrupting the unit's progress. Looking at the girl, wondering if that strength is either a curse or a blessing, Shoji knows becoming a slave because of that is not right. On Earth, in some way, he was a slave to a black company. The boss was just wasting his time, not knowing what he was capable of. Right here, in front of him, is a talented girl with great power. Isn't it unforgivable for those who can't understand and utilize her special ability? A bit later, Shoji can be seen walking on the capital's Craftsman Street, carrying a big bag. He stopped at the sword signboard. The moment he enters inside, a dwarf can be seen working on something. Upon seeing the boy's reaction to finding a dwarf working there, the man wonders if it is that unusual, only to find out the hometown where Shoji is coming from has no dwarves. However, we are moving to the important part, and that is the weapon the boy wants to repair. Unzipping the bag he had been carrying all the way here, the dwarf is stunned, wondering what is all this. They are mithril swords, yet they are all broken. Apparently, the boy has used his cultivation skill on the sword he had bought from Maine and created tens of broken mithril swords. Apparently, Shoji wants to fix only one sword, and from the rest, he wants the dwarf to create various kinds of weapons. Since he cannot process mithril, he will leave it to the pros. Wondering if this person could make the sword better than the original, the dwarf shows confidence, mentioning he's going to make it a lot better, but that won't come cheap. This would cost the boy 20 gold coins. Wasting no time, Shoji takes out his bag full of gold coins and expresses his gratitude. The dwarf, surprised he had received the full amount in advance, hears the boy say he will trust a blacksmith master of the dwarves. Realizing the situation is serious, the dwarf presents himself, and shaking hand with our protagonist, he promises to finish the job the best he can. After leaving that place, Shoji shows off a smile, believing this craftsman would do a great job since he had paid him properly and showed respect for his work. On Earth, there were no rewards, nor respect, only a boss and a business partner. It will be hard, but Shoji is going to protect his core values. 10 days later, Shoji entered the guild tavern and found Maine, and approaching her, lets the girl know he has a quest for her. For more information, the two should go to his office. Really excited, the girl followed him all the way to the place that looks more like a private house. Believing the kind of quest this guy was speaking of is not the kind of mission where you subjugate monsters, but rather a duel with a single sword that can be so tiny you won't even feel it when slashed, or a big one that would make you question your life decisions. This kind of duel should be done only between a man and a woman who love each other. However, she starts chilling out once Shoji mentions it is not that, questioning the girl if she is doing well with her adventurer's work, and if she has bought a new weapon yet. Maine shows a disappointed expression and takes out the weapon she had just bought. She paid for it with the money Shoji gave her, yet she already broke it. Followed by that, Shoji questions Maine if she would like to become his full-time escort. He intends on doing business around the world in the future. That is why he needs a trustworthy full-time escort. Looking at him with an uneasy expression, she questions if he is sure about it. Maine would keep on breaking weapons because of her skill. Right then, Shoji tells her to pay attention, and from behind, he unwraps a few boxes full of mithril weapons, surprising the girl who sees all that. She starts freaking out, realizing mithril weapons are extremely valuable. She gets even more shocked when hearing Shoji mention she can use all of them as much as she wants, destroying them, as long as she becomes his escort. Furthermore, he will take over her debt so she can work more freely. Believing that's too much, Shoji mentions there would be some conditions. She will always accompany him as his escort while he works. She will never enter places that he tells her not to go in, and she will follow him no matter how dangerous the destination is. The salary she will receive is 40 gold coins a month, and Shoji will be deducting from her salary little by little. However, when hearing the girl has to pay a total of 1,000 gold coins as debt, Shoji realizes the girl is being ripped off. Furthermore, he decides they will pay it together next time at the time of payment. As the girl wonders how rich this guy is, Shoji questions what she thinks about becoming his full-time escort. A little uneasy, Maine wonders why he is letting her break his weapons. He even paid her more than what was needed to pay off her debts. The cost is far greater than the benefit of hiring her. Looking at the girl, Shoji mentions he has high expectations for that skill of hers. The Superman skill she has is a very great skill, and grabbing the girl's hands, he mentions she does not have the opportunity to take advantage of that skill. With a huge smile on his face, the boy mentions he wants to give her the opportunity to explore that skill. He wants her ignored potential to blossom. Shoji will provide her with as many weapons as he can, and one day he will procure a weapon that won't break even with her skills. Realizing he might be looking like a shady swindler, Shoji questions if she does not want to work for a boss who can understand her values. With her eyes in the dark, Maine wonders if her power is really useful, and she does not have to be sorry for being a weapon killer anymore. Hearing Shoji mention once again her skill is actually very useful, and that her nickname will be a reminiscence she can talk and laugh about, Maine starts shedding tears and mentions she wants to do it. She wants to become his subordinate and not resent her own power anymore. We are taken to another day, as Shoji and Maine are departing to their next location. The girl has been officially hired as an exclusive escort. As training for the girl, Shoji decided to go peddling to the neighboring town again. Looking around, it seems that the roads are less secure than before. But that's not important since Maine, full of enthusiasm and with a bag full of swords, says no matter who the enemies are, she will show how she can defeat them. Shoji came well prepared. He got plenty of mithril swords in the carriage, and this replenishment is enough even if her equipped weapon breaks. These are all swords that the dwarf had made, and later on Shoji cultivated them with his skill. Looking at the girl, full of excitement and ready to take on any creature, Shoji mentions it would be better not to be attacked. Yet at that moment, a big group of bear-looking creatures started ambushing them. Those are forest bears that rarely leave the forest, but they are very ferocious and hard-skinned monsters. It is obvious escaping from them at that speed is quite difficult. Therefore, Maine decides to jump out, ready to exterminate all of them. As the fight begins, the girl dodges their attacks effortlessly. It is clear the girl emanates confidence. She does not just pass by the creatures, but cuts them as she passes by. As she keeps on slashing the creatures, at some point, the sword's durability reaches 0, and it breaks into small pieces. But that is not a problem anymore, since the girl has plenty of backup swords. With that being said, she keeps on slashing, giving her best, since there is nothing more for her to be afraid of.